Brennizer. I'm with the Phenomenal Future Project. I am live streaming here today on many platforms. This is day 14 out of 365 days in a row that I'm going to be live streaming. Why? Because I want to get the word out to artists, especially those that have a little technological savvy, who want to take control of their own careers, have a massive impact on their fans, grow their fans to just a giant group of people, and have them be with you for the long term, for your whole career, and not just be a flash in the pan. How am I going to do that? I'm going to talk about NFTs. I'm going to talk about blockchain, smart contracts, Web3, and eventually we'll even get into metaverse and virtual worlds and all that kind of stuff. But today, I want to talk about kind of where we are with the state of NFTs for artists. Now look, there are a lot of things that we're going to be able to do with NFTs down the line, okay? The whole idea is a non-fungible token. It is a way to represent some either digital thing or real world thing on the blockchain so that we understand who has owned it and when, what it was sold for, and what the changing state has been for that thing over time. And that anybody who wants to look at that information can get access to it. So I've talked about it before, decentralization versus centralization. Easy way to look at that. Centralized data, someone like Facebook. They have a whole bunch of data on the back end, and you can't really get at a lot of that information, can you? You only get to see what they decide to serve up to you. So you don't necessarily see everybody's posts, even though you might have them as your friends. It really depends on how you interact with Facebook and the things that you like. Now, some would say that's great because there's too much information out there for you to try to figure it out on your own. But the flip side of that is you never know what you're going to get. And that can be quite frustrating. So that's an example, very simple example of centralized information. The blockchain, on the other hand, is decentralized. And that means anybody can get access to the ledger and look at the history of transactions for that given blockchain. And you can learn all kinds of amazing things about money that's been moved around, like cryptocurrencies, I guess, the equivalent of money. And then when we're talking about NFTs. Now, one of the things that comes up a lot, this whole idea of a smart contract, is basically a contract that enforces itself based on incoming inputs. So let's say I have a contract with someone, they borrow money from me and they're supposed to pay it back within a certain amount of time, and it's going to be at a certain interest rate. Okay? Pretty simple, but what happens if something else changes in the future? What if the contract was written such that, oh, if their business does really well, I'd actually get a bonus at the end of that. Or if they're late, they're going to pay a late penalty of a certain amount. So you can see how in a normal contract, that data or the outputs of that contract can change, okay? In the world of blockchain and smart contracts, people will write code to automatically enforce those things as the states out in the real world change, or time passes, or whatever the criteria may be. But a person does not have to go in there and try to enforce it. It is being done automatically. So this is awesome because it builds a sense of trust the code if the contract is written well, but you don't have to trust a person or a third party to interpret that later on or to follow through on it later on. And the only recourse that you have in the real world, usually, if someone doesn't, say, pay you back for a loan, is to take them to court, file a lawsuit. And that can take a very long time. In this case, you won't have to do that because the blockchain is running in perpetuity. So the only thing that could ruin that, possibly, basically kill the transaction, is if the entire blockchain goes down. Now, I'm going to go back to the Facebook example. Facebook is one company, and they have, servers that have all their information or everything. But what happens if Facebook decides to shut down? Or they go bankrupt and they can't pay their bill and their servers shut down? You can see how centralization would also have an issue of not having power, basically. You can't get access to something if something else just falls apart. The cool thing about the blockchain is that it's distributed. There are computers all over the world that are incentivized to keep a copy of the blockchain, keep a copy of that ledger, and do calculations to make sure that all of the transactions that are happening are real and should actually be added to the chain. So one computer can go down, 10 computers can go down, and yet there are still plenty out there that are validating and building consensus on what is real and what is not on the blockchain. So that's pretty cool. It is a way to secure data and not have it be, I guess, fall to the whims of a central authority. Okay, so today, along those lines, I wanted to cover kind of, again, where are we with NFTs? There really aren't that many real estate contracts happening on the blockchain yet. Eventually, insurance is going to go on the blockchain. Medical records are going to go on a blockchain. It just makes sense that a lot of those things would go in a place where everybody would want to be able to get access to that information, or at least the important parties, right? But right now, what we're seeing is mostly art, which is cool for artists. That's really awesome. And that's why I'm here talking to you. But we are really at the cusp, just right at the beginning of this taking off. Now, you may have read at the news that 2021 was the year of NFTs, right? And it was probably oversaturated in the headlines and everything. And then you may have also heard about the NFT crash. Of course, there is a blockchain, dip as far as all the cryptocurrencies that are out there, and the value has fallen off in many ways, just like the stock market, and just like our economy in general here in the United States, but around the world. Everyone's having a little bit of a problem here after, the excesses of the coronavirus and messes to supply chains and all kinds of crazy things. Pardon me. Oh yeah, and the video's cutting out. What a day, what a day. Well, I want to tell you, just because art NFTs went from 0 to about 17 billion in sales over the course of about 12 months. Like I said, 2020 year, the year of the NFT, and then a lot of that value has crashed. That doesn't mean it's over. It's not a fad. In fact, this is following a predictable graph that occurs in all new markets. And I'm going to flip over and share that with you here. So some people get afraid of graphs. I don't want you to be. This is pretty simple if we go through this slowly. So I want to actually look at the bottom part here first. So most new technologies out there, we see an adoption curve that looks very much like a Gaussian curve or a bell curve. That's what most people will call that. So here's your adoption rate, how many people on the y-axis are actually starting to use this stuff. And then over time is the x-axis, okay? So at the beginning, you've got the innovators. 2.5% of the population are these tech enthusiasts or the innovators. And they are the ones screaming, about how amazing all this stuff is going to be, right? But most of us don't even see, no, that's crazy. I don't see that's going to be useful. Just like the internet was not going to be a thing, or personal computers were not going to be a thing, or mobile phones and with the power of more computing power than they had in the early 1990s in your pocket. All of these things, right? At the beginning, no one thought they were going to do anything. And here you have the early adopters, the visionaries. Now, these are not necessarily the techie people out there trying to make it happen, but these are the people who want to try it out. They kind of want to be right at the cutting edge in the forefront. And there happens to be this thing called a chasm, and we'll get back to that in a moment. But over time, it will eventually go up, and you have people who are pragmatic. Another 34% of the population here will be what we call the early majority of adoption. And then you've got your conservatives, another 34%, and then you've got your skeptics, your diehards, your Luddites, your people that aren't going to do anything until their arms are twisted and their shoulders are about to break, okay? We call these the laggards or the skeptics, okay? Now let's go back up to the curve here on top, where it's really the expectations over time. So you can see here for those innovators, expectations rise very rapidly, okay? Techie people start talking to techie people. They get super excited about what all the possibilities are. They dream up ideas, and they haven't necessarily put those ideas into practice. Okay, so the ideas are what are exciting here at the beginning. Okay, now right around here, your early adopters start trying to use what these techie people have started to finally create, but just only a few use cases. Okay, and it's clunky, and it's cumbersome, and they find that the promise isn't living up to the expectations, and all of a sudden there's a giant dip because it's taking way longer than they thought before they were going to be able to actually get this technology to a point where it was super useful and simple. Okay, and so you get this what they call the trough of disillusionment, where expectations start to drop precipitously. Okay, and then here finally, when the pragmatists get involved, it's that turnaround spot where finally the tech people, they've been working and they've been working and they've been working, and a number of companies have fallen off the cliff and gone bankrupt and couldn't get any more funding. And finally, you start getting some traction again, but it's a little bit slower. Okay, so expectations don't go up as fast, and you get into what they call the slope of enlightenment. This is a sustainable slope of expectations, going up and up and up through the pragmatists and the conservatives, and you finally get to be a very productive product. Now, of course, you're not up here at the peak of expectations yet, and this will take out probably many years to finally really plateau. Like, you know, imagine 1999, 2000, when all of the dot-coms started, and there were just an insane amount of money going into these companies, and 95% of them went broke in 2001. We're now in 2022, we're really hitting that super maturity in Web 2. And now we're on to a newer technology here with what's coming with blockchain. So let's look at this for blockchain, just cryptocurrencies, okay? Here we got this red block here. In 2017, 2018, the peak of inflated expectations, the market just went crazy. People were buying in, they were speculating. And then, well, things didn't come along nearly as fast as everyone thought they would. All those white papers happened, but then they realized, no, this is going to be a lot harder to really program in a robust way and get all of the applications. So we weren't meeting the promise. And there was a giant crash. This is where Ethereum was up very high and then went down to like $80 per ETH. Okay? Major crash. So in 2020, things started to finally turn around and go back up again. All right? Now, we've been through a couple of cycles like this as far as cryptocurrency ups and downs. We're currently in a little hiccup right now, but that doesn't have to do necessarily with the adoption rate around the complexities with the technology. There are some external market forces that are causing that as well. With the exception of a few bad apples that have really lost a fair amount of value, like $50 billion. The Terra Luna crash. This was supposed to be a stablecoin pair, and it was not done very well, and people were trying to win outsized gains. Basically, they were stealing from the future to pay ridiculous dividends today, and that could not be sustained. And their margins were called due when the market started to wobble a little bit and things crashed. So, you know, we're dealing with a little bit of that right now. Another one of those little dips right in this area of the slope of enlightenment, but it's a lot smaller than this initial one was. Now, all that being said, I want you to understand, with NFTs, 21, 22, okay, we're at the peak of inflated expectations, or let's say January, February was the peak of 2022, was the peak of inflated expectations for NFTs. So right now, you're probably seeing all kinds of things about NFTs in the news, if you're following this kind of stuff at all, where people are losing some value. They were speculating on the value of art NFTs or utility NFTs that had to do with membership benefits. Okay, those are the two use cases that we're seeing a lot of right now in NFTs. Early use cases, okay? So the big promise of all of these other things, like medical records and insurance and real estate, and the list goes on and on, social media on the blockchain, right? That's just starting now. So what we had seen was decentralized finance apps on top of blockchain plus NFTs. That was kind of the two main things that we had seen in 2021 and now 22. But it's going to take a lot longer to work through those very entrenched industries, insurance, real estate, et cetera. Okay, and also making some of these things more robust so that we really truly can replace maybe some of the banking. Please. I recorded a podcast yesterday that talked about problems with banks and cryptocurrencies that I had just run into. So if you have a chance, go listen to that. It's an audio podcast. So I say all of this, right? Because here we are on this downslope right now, halfway through 2022. This is the perfect time for artists to get in there, have some time to tinker with what NFTs can do for you, and still be insanely early, right? We're here at the Chasm, which I talked about earlier, okay? It's this kind of cliff where people are like, oh my God, maybe this thing isn't actually going to be useful after all. We're right here, still in the early adopter phase, okay? So I mean, we're talking 2.5% and 9% of the world's population. You still have 91% of people that are going to adopt this over time, okay? It is early, but I also want to say it's the perfect time to strike, okay? Because you can make a lot of mistakes here at the beginning and people will forgive you. You can make very simple NFT series at the beginning and test the waters and incrementally get better and better and better, okay? That is a really amazing place for you to be. Think about how many times you've been there in your life, okay? Now I've been through a few cycles, okay? Got a little gray hair in my beard here. And I've never been more excited about something new and groundbreaking and culturally shifting, economically shifting, society shifting as what blockchain and Web3 is doing. Okay, I believe that. Some people are skeptics. That's not me. I'm not the guy way over here on the end. And I used to be probably maybe more pragmatist of a person. But for this, I'm a tech enthusiast. I'm right here at the beginning. I'm digging into this and am super excited. But I also have been, like I said, through a few cycles. So I recognize that this change is a good sign. It's a good sign for the people who now really want to make something in this space and have a chance to really ride the wave. And that's what we're looking at here with the pragmatist adopting, this bell curve. You are trying to catch the wave here at the beginning. If you try to catch a wave too early when you're a surfer and you start paddling too early or paddling too late, you miss it. You miss the crest and you can't get your surfboard up here and actually ride that thing in, okay? But here, in this little red zone, just after the chasm, is the perfect spot to be when this wave is coming, for you to ride that wave for all it's worth and ride the peak and be better than all the competitors out there who decide to get in a little too late and can't gain the traction. Because what are we doing with NFTs, okay, as artists? It's twofold, okay? One, it's onefold. All you're trying to do is give experiences to your fans and have them talk about what you're up to and grow your fan base. So it's for the people discovering all of the types of art that you do, giving you a means to get paid for that, and giving you a means to interact with those fans in a meaningful way, directly without having to worry about somebody else being in the middle of all of that. You essentially own your audience. Okay, I'll get to that on another live stream when I talk about the 3 types of traffic, or the 3 types of fans that, the 3 stages of fandom, something like that, right? We'll get into that later, but that's really what you are trying to do here with this, is shorten the gap between you and any potential fans. You want to have them discover you and stick with you for the long term. And that's what we're going to be able to do with NFTs, because it's not a one and done, okay? It's not a transactional thing. They're going to buy an NFT and be done with it. The NFTs, the fact that you now have a relationship with them, you can actually choose to give them benefits, even if it's not programmed in on those smart contracts from the beginning. You can choose to say, hey, look, everybody that has an NFT from my first series, they get to come to my show at Madison Square Garden for free. You can choose to do that, and it's as simple as somebody scanning the fact that, yes, they truly do have this NFT in their wallet, their digital wallet. Pretty cool, right? So please, if you're an artist, continue watching this channel. Besides giving you reasons why, I'm going to give you the how, okay? I'm creating some courses. I'm creating some mastermind groups. I have so many different things in the works for you, but here at the beginning, I know that this is a weird thing. It's a new thing, and so I'm trying to cover as much background as I possibly can to help you understand why this is such a massive opportunity for you, and to really take charge of your career. I'm having a hard time talking today, but it's because there's so much going on in my brain right now. And I just want to kind of reach through the screen, and I don't want to, and I'm not going to throttle you because that's ridiculous, but I kind of want to shake you awake and really help you understand that you may never get an opportunity like this in your life again. So do everything you can to understand the why and the how of putting NFTs into practice, and wow, just having a phenomenal future. That's what I want for you. That's why we named it that. And yeah, thank you for watching this live stream. I would love for you to put some comments whatever platform you're watching this on. That would be fantastic. I'd love some feedback. Also, please share this with 3 artist friends of yours who you think really deserve a phenomenal future. And they're going to thank you for that. And then the last thing I'd ask for you, depending on what channel you're watching this on, either follow us or subscribe to this channel, because it helps us go up in the rankings. It helps, for instance, on Facebook, that the more people that like stuff and follow stuff, the more it will show up in the people who are following us and my friends and things like that. It will show up in that feed. Same thing with YouTube and discoverability. If someone types NFT and we have a lot of subscribers, will pop up in that NFT feed, or if they put, artists and NFTs, something like that. Look, we got to deal with the algorithms. I need your help to have us rise in those rankings. That's all I ask, and I will continue giving you free content on a daily basis here at the Phenomenal Future Project. And until next time, I will say it again, adios from Texas.